Author of Close with Your Open, high-tech marketing pioneer, the Pitchfreak, Antonio White is a 25-plus year veteran marketing professional responsible for new business and product launches for startups, including Sagent Technology, Datamind, and Personic, with sales exits of just these three firms totaling over $250 million. Antonio's work in advertising led him to build an agency in 1995 that was one of the earliest full service digital marketing agencies in the world, Digital Deli. Antonio now focuses his work on training entrepreneurs on effective marketing message development to connect more emotionally with their customers. He's become concerned about the speed of which advertising technology is advancing and its potential devastating impact on global democracy. Let's welcome Antonio as he shares the future of political advertising is worse than you can imagine.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to make a bold prediction that is going to put me at an incredible disadvantage. The bold prediction is that at the end of this presentation, Alan Garber and I will be in agreement. That's right. That's what I said. For those of you who know Alan and I, you know, sometimes we don't agree on everything. But in this case, I almost assure it. So with that in mind here, I'm making a bold promise. I'm putting myself as a disadvantage here, but I hope that I can prove myself on this approach. I want to give you a little example
I'll get
first.
back to you in 20 minutes.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. All right. And so what I want to do is I want to do a couple things. This is going to be a little bit unusual. And before I get started here, this is an essay that I'm working on. And so this is not in its complete entire form. This is not as polished as I like it to be. This is more along the lines of what a comedian does when they're practicing a concept in a club. However, my hope is that it's engaging, compelling enough here for you guys to think about, and perhaps the way in which we do presentation might be unusual as well. So what I'd like to do is show you how quickly you can communicate a meaningful marketing message. I'm going to give you an example of that first, and then we'll continue from there. So I'll share screen. Okay, so can you see this screen here with the number 5 and the shoes on there? Great, okay. So please pay attention to the screen. That was 5 seconds. Actually, technically 6 seconds. I only needed 5 seconds to tell the message, but YouTube requires the minimum ad for YouTube is 6 seconds. So I've got a question for you here. What I'd like to do here is perhaps Pete Ratto, if we can unmute Pete Ratto. Can we unmute Pete Ratto? Is that possible? Possible? No? Yes, no? Oh, there you go.
I think I did. I'm unmuted.
Hey, Pete. Okay, Pete, you're going to be an objective third party here to this. And by the way, is Stephen Campbell on this call? No?
I've not seen Steven this morning.
Okay. All right. That's okay. If Stephen Campbell's on this call, I'm sure he would appreciate this call. And I wanted him to be the person to validate some of the scientific issues that I'm going to talk about as well. But Pete, that being said, hopefully you're distracted enough now. Do you recall anything from the past 5 seconds when I showed you that display?
Yeah, that it was a chocolate chip cookie in your display.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
That you were wearing a pair of shoes that looks exactly like the pair of shoes I'm wearing right now.
Great. Anything else?
I have socks though.
Anything else?
Well, the cookie crumbled, you know, and the lettering had shrunk as it was moving on here. But no, that's about it.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So you've got messages. Or by the way, how do you feel about cookies? Are you anti-cookie or pro-cookie?
Oh, very, very pro-cookie.
Pro-cookie. Okay,
Oh, yes,
terrific.
definitely.
Very good. Very good. So the cookie crumbling happened in less than 1 second. In less than 1 second. The shoes were obviously pervasive, but for a total of 5 seconds, maybe about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Pete, and you can mute too. Thank you, Pete. So
Okay.
what's my point here is that I used 5 seconds and multimedia technology to burrow into Pete's brain as well as yours to provide you with a piece of insight and information that's at the deep at your core to help you think favorably about my new book. I also tied the concept of the 5-second rule for dropping a cookie on the floor with the 5-second rule tied to my advertising campaign and how you can improve your ads with a 5-second solution. So 5 seconds is a lot of time. You can convey a lot of information in 5 seconds. That's right. Tony Woodall says he didn't even mention seeing your book. That's okay. Right. Remember, it's not just seeing the ad once for 5 seconds, and Tony's completely right. If you saw this ad over and over again at these 5-second increments, the frequency of this message here would associate my book with the 5-second rule and with cookies. And so the idea is a favorable mention, if you will, a favorable mindset that I'm putting you in as well. And so it's a marketing manipulation. It's like a magic trick. And today I'm going to discuss marketing manipulation, which are going to seem like magic tricks, but they have far more challenging consequences as a result. Today I'm going to demonstrate ethical brain hacking. Marketers are brain hackers. Some may or may not be ethical. I'm going to demonstrate an ethical brain hack. I'm going to hack into your brains. During the next 20 or so minutes here, I will change the very biology of your brain, and it's going to be done in a mission to transform your mind. If Stephen Campbell was here, he would be able to testify to this. The result may or may not work for you based upon how much you resist. But I assure you, resistance is futile. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. That being said, I assure you that you will not be harmed in any manner, as it is the purpose of this presentation to serve you and offer you a choice that for some may never be made available. Let me repeat that. I want to offer you a choice today that for some in the future may never be made available. And I'm not saying that lightly. So please raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if I have permission to hack into your brain for the next 15, 20 minutes here. Thumbs up. Yes. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to issue a warning. The warning is that what you're about to see happens when political advertising goes unchecked. For some, it may be disturbing. Please take a look.
Not seeing anything yet.
You're not seeing that? Hold on. Go back here. Hold on. Let's do this. Okay. Let's try it like this. Here we go.
Still not seeing.
Okay. Coming up. Hold on. We'll get it. All right. Boom. And good. Here we go. Good. Perfect. Here we go. And okay. Can you guys see? Yes? Please brace yourself.
Okay.
There we go.
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John or Dean or Harry. Let's do that big job right. Just get in step with the guy that's hep. Get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take Ike to Washington. We got to get where we are going. Travel day and night for president. Let Adelaide go the other way. We'll all go with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take Ike to Washington. We'll take Ike to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country. Vote for Eisenhower.
Okay. All right. So I hope that you were flown for a bit of a loop here. You may have expected me to show something else in this presentation. This was my very first series of manipulations to your brain. You perhaps were braced for something far more sinister. And when I presented a very silly cartoon for President Eisenhower, hopefully it was a bit of relief. This is an emotional tactic used to help throw people off course in their thinking, create a different emotional state. Hopefully it's done to make you put a smile on your face. And that's the intention, obviously, of this advertisement with Eisenhower running for president here. The idea of I Like Ike, and everybody knows the campaign for I Like Ike. It's probably one of the most famous and iconic political campaign ads of history. I don't think there's one that is more iconic than I Like Ike. And certainly as an advertiser, I appreciate that very, very much. Okay. So question here, who remembers who's old enough to remember Eisenhower running for president? Let's see if I can get the gallery view here. All right. Okay. Very good. Okay. Alan, let's talk to Alan here real quick. So Alan, can we unmute Alan?
Please do not unmute Alan.
What do you want to do?
Alan, can you talk a little
I'm
bit?
always unmuted.
Alan, can you talk a little bit about what you recall when you saw the advertising for Eisenhower's campaign? By the way, this is unscripted here. Alan and I have not prepared anything. I haven't prepared anything with anybody. So whatever Alan says is off the cuff. So Alan, please.
Well, I don't remember his first campaign because his first campaign, I was barely two years old. I do remember his reelection campaign. I was 6, believe it or not. And I still remember that theme song. And I remember the I Like Ike. And I also remember who ran against him, Adlai Stevenson, twice, and lost both times.
Right. And so what is it about the ad that you think that you experienced from your perspective here? Did you have a good association with it, a negative association, just out of curiosity?
Playful,
yeah, perfect. And how do you feel about it today here, knowing as he ran for president, knowing his approach here, knowing the campaign here? Do you have just any general thoughts about just your kind of feelings about that campaign, about his approach? Anything that comes up for you?
Yeah, one thing. I don't think that there's one campaign manager of a presidential campaign that would put out an ad like that today.
Yeah.
There's not enough negativity in
it. Right. And so from that campaign here, generally positive.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Great. Perfect. Thank you. Great. Anybody else want to make a quick
That's the
comment
last
here?
thing I'll agree with you on today.
I already changed your approach here. We also agree. I already proved that you were in an agreement. No, actually, that's not the point of this. But thank you for that, for Alan. Hey, Randall, how about you? You said that you raised your hand here. What do you think about Ike's campaign?
All right, unmuted. Okay.
There we go.
I was just a kid. One thing I remember, and we didn't have a TV, so I had never seen that commercial before. But at church one Sunday, it'd be 1952, one of the older men, who was probably at least 30, gave me a button that said, "I like Ike." So that's what I remember about it. Looking back on the Eisenhower administration, I think everybody remembers the interstate system. That's the main thing that's credited to him. And he had a balanced budget last time until Bill Clinton was in the 90s. So there were good things to remember about the Eisenhower administration.
Terrific. Great. Maybe I can get one more.
Antonio, can I jump in?
Please do, Rick. Please do.
The most amazing thing about the Eisenhower administration, and I'm a year older than Alan, so I don't remember his first campaign either. But everybody, if you go to the Corps of Engineers and say, is it feasible to build a dam? They say, of course it is, because that's what we do. We build dams. One of the main things working in a negative way against Eisenhower was, we got a general in here. He's been responsible for the deaths of all these people, and he's going to start another war. And the ultimate irony of the Eisenhower administration is
Don't give up the punchline for this whole deal today. I know where you're going. Something about a complex, yes?
No, well, what I'm going to say is, not one soldier died in the 8 years that Eisenhower was a president. And there are no other presidents that I know of that can make that claim.
Perfect.
And it reminds me of my favorite bumper sticker, which I still have one in the drawer, which says, "I miss Ike. Hell, I even miss Harry."
I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Love it. Okay, great. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a mental exercise. And if you would, and this will be a gentle exercise. And oh, look at that. Look at that. Alan's showing this. What is that? Who is that?
This is a ad campaign thing from William Howard Taft when he ran for president.
I love it.
This is a and he was a Republican also, but this is a little button with a picture of William Howard Taft stuck in the elephant.
I love that.
Early,
I love that.
Early political advertising, if you will.
Yeah. Alan, please don't make it any easier for me to get you to agree with me, because you're just taking this too easy for me. Okay. Make it a challenge, for crying out loud. All right. Great. Thank you for that, Alan. And that's perfect. And by the way, what Alan's talking about here is actually the bigger point. So he's actually presenting this, and we did not collaborate on this, but the point that he's making is actually something that we're going to be getting to, which is very, very important. Okay, so let's go through this exercise, and what I'd love for you to do is to please close your eyes. Please close your eyes and just listen. I'm going to play a song for you, and the song I'm going to play here is a song that you're probably very familiar with, and it's an exercise in just listening and paying attention and seeing what comes to you. Okay, so I'm gonna play the first here, let's see if I can do this here quick. It's great. Okay, and good, and here we go. Anybody please recall that song? Anybody knows that song? Raise your hand if you know that song. Here, Ricky Wilson. Here, Hedy Kave. Can we unmute Hedy Kave? Hold on.
Eddie can go ahead and unmute.
Okay.
So.
Hedy,
Okay.
tell me about that song.
I remember that.
Great. What's
Nice
the name of the
Beatles
song? Great. Nice Beatles song. What are your feelings about it?
Very soothing, very calm, easy to understand, not sophisticated, doesn't make you listen hard to see what they are saying. It's
Okay. How do you feel about it? How does it make you feel, Hedy?
soothing, calm.
Perfect. Okay, great. Anybody else want to make a comment about this song?
The song was Something by George Harrison in the Beatles. And the irony of it was Frank Sinatra attributed that song to Lennon and McCartney and said it was the best love song Lennon and McCartney ever wrote. And the reality is George Harrison wrote it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here, you're going to think that this is planned. I assure you it is not planned. Please close your eyes again. Please close your eyes again. Please close your eyes again. That was all Blue Eyes singing the same exact song. So, and Rick, you think you're everybody's one step ahead of me. I thought that I was gonna get you guys going here. You guys are leading me along here, so I appreciate it so much. Here, Patricia Fripp, question for you. You're nodding your head to that song. Can we unmute Patricia for a moment?
Yes.
Patricia, what do these two songs mean to you? How do they make you feel?
It wonderful, warm, and for every woman, I would think we would love some man to feel about us the same way.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, we've got one more song that I want you to hear. And if you will, and please close your eyes again, please. Here, closing your eyes with this is really, did I do this right? Oh, only Mr. Ray Charles. Okay, so this exercise was actually designed by a friend of mine, Whitney Olson, with regards to talking about tone. And so in talking about tone, we want to talk about, and Al actually talked about it a little bit earlier here, the Eisenhower ad and the tone of the ad, which was very positive. So what I'd like to talk to you guys about and just kind of put in the back of your mind here is that's the same exact song, same exact words, 3 different interpretations. Now, which one was the right interpretation? Anybody want to take a guess which was the right one? Janice Liffin, you're so bold. You are so bold. You are so bold. You're going to tell me which one is right. Great. Let's hear it.
All three.
And why is that, Janice Littman?
Because each singer had their own way of experiencing the words and the mood and portraying that for their favorite listeners.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, so one was done by a white guy. Does that make any difference to you at all?
No,
One was done by a black guy. Does that make any difference to you at all?
I love them all.
One was made by a dirty hippie. Does that make any difference to you at all? Are you sure?
I grew up with each one of those singers, so I have different memories come to mind when I hear each voice.
Okay, all right. I'm just checking here. I'm just curious here. Just want to make sure that we're all in sync here with this. So you're just basically saying what? What's your sense of all these songs?
That each time you hear a song, any song by any singer, different emotions are evoked.
And so would you say that they're both, anybody have of intentions that is different from the other artists when they're performing the song?
I can't speak to their intentions.
Hard, right? Great. You can't. You don't know.
Right.
You don't know. You heard the words. You don't know the intentions, but you're moved by it in some kind of way. Some people might like the jazzy approach. Some people might like the soulful approach. Some people might like the rock style approach, right?
Right.
We don't know necessarily what the intentions are behind that, right? And so the idea behind this is that there's more than one way to convey a message, obviously. And nobody knows that better than our very own Patricia Fripp. The tone is vital to deliver a message, create an emotional connection. But there's more than one way to make an emotional connection, right? So that exercise is all about tone. All right, so let's keep the party going here, shall we? Now what I like to do here is show you, if I can, here, let's get this to work.
No
I'd
more
like to move.
eyes.
Say what?
I said no more closing eyes.
You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes anymore. Thank you, Eddie. All right. All right. So now pay attention here just for a few moments.
A big call to make. CNN announces that we call Florida in the Al Gore column.
Turn the lights down. The party just got wilder.
Florida goes to Mr. Bush.
Bush wins. Headline of the hour. Folks, it might be premature.
So we take Florida away from George W. Bush.
This is no longer an election. This is like Alice in Wonderland.
The one thing no one expected in a presidential campaign is that we wouldn't know who won on election.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a moment, right? This concept of winning elections is not new. It goes through for history, for the sake of history here. The challenge here that we have, and we're actually already running out of time, but I'm going to move very quickly now. The concept here is technology has shifted tremendously from the hanging chads of the George Bush era, right, to what we're dealing with today. And I'm just going to go right through it here. So here's what we're going to do. Let's keep going here. All right. You saw the ads from Eisenhower. Let's also look at one more other famous ad.
It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history. With interest rates at about half the record highs of 1980, nearly 2,000 families today will buy new homes, more than at any time in the past 4 years. This afternoon, 6,500 young men and women will be married. And with inflation at less than half of what it was just 4 years ago, they can look forward with confidence to the future. It's morning again in America. And under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago?
Other than President Eisenhower's campaign, that ad for Ronald Reagan is probably the second most famous advertisement ever produced. And you can tell the emotional tone of the ad. And many folks would agree here that it presented itself in a very positive, uplifting way. And we don't have enough time to dig into it here, but it's simply, many, many years later, over 50 years later here, the tone was still very inspirational and positive. But here's where things are beginning to change a little bit. And to explain the changes, I would like to talk to you about one thing. And that is, do I have 5 minutes? Can I get 5 minutes for you guys? Is that possible? Okay, good. Let me just talk to you about, let's show you here. This is, let me do it this way. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. This is Ad Age's report on political spending in 2020. And here it is. $8.5 billion spent in political advertising for 2020 campaign. The highest amount of political advertising ever in the history of the United States. And it surpassed the previous election cycle by over $2 billion, because $6 billion was the previous election cycle. What does that mean to you guys? What it means is that there is big money in advertising and to align itself with politics. I don't think that that's even a controversial statement. The more important it is for folks to understand what the vote is, to capture a vote, the more valuable that is, the more money people spend on advertising. That should not
The
even
best government money can buy.
That's right. All right, but no commenting here from here on out. Okay, until the end. All right, so I want to talk to you here for a moment here. President Trump and the Republicans spent a greater portion of their budget on national cable and digital ads. Overall, there's a lot more spending on national advertising last year, and national buys mean when you're hitting someone like a political ad, you're trying to do it when they don't expect it. In California, there was $475 million spent on advertising, including $373 million spent on ballot measures. It's all from ad. I can forward you guys these if you're interested in it. My point here is California wasn't even in play for the 2020 election, and over $470 million was spent on advertising in that space. Here's another one from Newsweek. 2020 ad spending shatters records. Here's Newsweek says campaigns have spent more money on political ads this cycle ever, even topping $8 billion, even less than a week until election day, from Newsweek. My point to you is this. Can we all agree there's big money in political advertising? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay, great. I'm going to stop there. There's a great deal more that I can get into, but I need to conclude this here for you very quickly. Here's why I'm nervous. Here is why I'm nervous. Let's just get right into it. The reason why I'm nervous is, there we go. Boom. Let's have a little discussion from Adam Driver talking about paying attention.
Certain things have to be in place for you to do your job, but then actually none of that's true. Where you were using the example earlier of a porthole, having it worked up in your mind and then realize you're getting there, you have no control over any of it. So, or doing homework and research and losing weight and putting a bunch of weight and then feeling comfortable to let it all go because none of that is helpful because your scene partner is drunk. I'm just pulling that.
Okay, what is my point with this? My point here is that you can prepare yourself as much as you want for the future, but if the other people who are in control show up drunk to the event here, all bets are off. Okay, all bets are off. I'm going to pursue. By the way, what I'm about to show you is probably 50 years of me and dealing with my own deep therapy to try to deal with the shock of this situation here. I assure you that as of last night, I had to watch it again, and I was still struck in fear, in bloody terror when I saw this as a child in 1974 on commercial TV. I warn you, it may be disturbing.
The Davises have had a baby, but they're not sending out any announcements. Most new parents are a little scared when they have a baby. The Davises are terrified. You see, there's only one thing wrong with the Davis baby. It's alive. It's alive. Don't see it alone. Please.
So I tell you, I screamed as a little kid, ran away into my room and dove under my bed. I was absolutely frightened by this simple television advertisement. I could not take it. Now, that was scary. Here's something that's a bit scarier. So scary that YouTube says that it might be inappropriate. The ad I just showed you had nothing to do with that. Let's go and take a look.
We will stop.
I'm just going to stop it there. You guys all know where this is. This is the result of being manipulated by marketing and advertising. This is not about right or left or center. This is regard of the responsibility of marketers and advertisers and those who deliver messages in order to do so in a responsible way for the sake of democracy. But I tell you what, as frightening as this is not even what's frightening to me. I'm going to show you right now.
Almost everyone over time will develop brain and spine problems. These range from minor to very severe, but if you live long enough, everyone's going to basically have some kind of neurological disorder. And these range from memory loss to brain damage. But
I'm skipping.
So current medical research, we'll just go through what is the state of the art in medical research, and then what's the state of the art in what consumers or people in general can get.
This is Elon Musk introducing his brand new technology called Neuralink. Neuralink is the ability to actually implant a chip into your brain and compel you to think. It can help you to see for folks who can't see. It can help you deal with neurological disorders. It can help you repair nerve connections between your brain and your back in case you lose spinal cord injury. And here's the problem. Here's the big problem. The big problem here is that it can be hacked. So if you think that there's a problem with hanging chads in the future, let's show you something here. Take a look at this.
We've simplified this to simply something that is about the size of a large coin. And it goes in your skull, replaces a piece of skull, and the wires then connect within a few centimeters or about an inch away from the device. And this is sort of what it looks like. So, yeah. This is our little device. It does, that thing at the bottom is just to hold the threads in place because they're just like little fine wires.
Those little fine wires, can get the body to respond to electronic impulses that can come from your iPhone. Folks, my concern here is not about which political party is in power. My concern is about the idea that we may not be able to choose who gets to be in power with the ability to hack into technology and get people to vote against their self-interest. This is the problem. The problem here is the idea is in the future, if we do not have serious regulations and protections against political advertising, because by the way, political advertising is a free-for-all in the United States. You can say almost anything that you want, true or false, it doesn't matter, and it's not about parties. You can say basically anything you want. The FCC and the FCC take a very light hand to this. As a result, though, here's the problem. At the minimum, political advertising should be under the same level of constraints and regulations as pharmaceutical advertising and financial industry advertising. At the minimum. At the minimum. There's no reason why political ads should be held under any less scrutiny than that of a pharmaceutical company. Because of course, having a reaction to a bad medical treatment here is certainly not as bad as the overthrow of the government. And hopefully that's something that we can all agree on. Alan, what's your take?
I'll go a step further, maybe. And I think that in order for that to occur and to be effective, New York Times versus Sullivan needs to be overturned and modified by the Supreme Court. Because yes, in political advertising, they can say anything they want to the point where It can be totally false. It can be with malice and an absolute lie with intent to lie. And that goes just a little bit too far. Most libel laws and slander laws won't allow that, except with public figures. And the most public figures we have right now, besides people in Hollywood, are political people. And there's essentially a meld between the two. Our political leaders are just actors that can't act as well and sell their product through that. So I think that is the thing. And the other thing that has to happen is this stuff that Elon Musk wants to put into your brain. Yeah, it may have some great medical advances to it, but it'll be so easy to get you to switch your vote or to tell you what product to buy or who to kill tomorrow. So I think that's going a little too far. So yes, Pitchfreak, maybe we do agree on some of this.
Thank you, Alan. So, and by the way, Alan, what you talked about with regards to the media and advertising in the New York Times, I have an hour longer about this discussion here as far as it goes. What is advertising? And you showed the elephant with the patch. But by the way, Facebook, influencer marketing, social media, there's the distinction between what is advertising and what is not advertising is so thin, it's almost non-existent. And Jim Prost is nodding his head in agreement here. What is advertising? What is influencing your behavior and manipulating your brain like I did for the past 20 plus minutes here? And what is just pure information, right? And so that's the worry that I have here. If we don't regulate advertising for politics and at least hold them to the same standards as far as pharmaceutical advertising and financial institution advertising here, we are going down a slippery slope that makes the conspiracy on climate change seem like nothing. We have to get regulatory permission. We have to get regulatory approval for truth in advertising and more. So let's leave on a positive note, if I will here. Wouldn't it be great to be able to go back to the days where you can have fun with advertising? By the way, we have one of the most significant political operatives in this very room today. This very room was a political operative who actually worked against Eisenhower, if you can believe, in this very call, on this very call. Maybe you know who he is. Let's take a look, shall we?
My name is Sidney Mobell. Right now we're looking at a record that I wrote back in 1956 when Adlai Stevenson ran for the President of the United States. The name of the record is The Myth of Joe Smith. In 1956, Adlai Stevenson was running for the President of the United States, and Senator Terry Carpenter from Nebraska came up and, being jokingly, he says, "I nominate Joe Smith for the President of the United States." Another senator got up and says, "I second the motion for Joe Smith to be the President of the United States." A third senator got up and said, "Who in the hell is Joe Smith?" And everything was in shambles. Everyone was saying, "What happened? Who's Joe Smith?" With what happened, that caused me to think about it and write the song, The Myth of Joe Smith, because there was no Joe Smith.
Did Adlai Stevenson win?
No. During this campaign right now with Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, I'm waiting for one of them to tell me they want me to write the campaign song for their opponent.
Who you with? I cast my vote for a guy named Smith.
So I hope that left you on a happy note with our very own Sidney Mobell, political operative. I want to thank you for your kind attention today here. And also just say, I've given you a mental inoculation. My service to you is to inform you of what is happening at the crossroads of society, technology, and politics. If the future is left unchecked, we won't be dealing with hanging chads. People in power will simply be able to log into your brain and hit delete. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Antonio. I love the ending. I love the ending. And who is Joe Smith anyway?
There was no Joe Smith. That was the whole point. Hey, Bert, question for Bert.
Yeah. Would imposing the fairness doctrine, bringing that back, improve anything? Do you remember the fairness doctrine?
Well, so I can't answer. I can't talk to that because I'm not sure. There's so many legislations and people supporting fairness in advertising and political advertising reform. It's been happening for forever, and for as long as I can see media talking about politics, I also see the need for political advertising reform as well. And to Alan's point, it's worse than simple political advertising because political advertising is so indistinguishable from information or entertainment entertainment today that political ad budgets, how do you spend $8 billion? You can't spend $8 billion and you would own every single newspaper in the United States for the whole entire week of the advertising campaign. You have to spend it on influence. Public relations people are influencers. Right? Media organizations here are designed to get your eyeballs to look at the screen to sell you products. These people are creating narratives to support their own objectives, and they're targeting more and more specifically. So think about just the targeting that people know. I mean, Facebook knows so well how you behave on social media that people think that Facebook is actually listening to them when their phone is off. Well, that's not true. What's true is the targeting is so good. Don't get concerned about the conspiracy because that's crap. What you should be worried is the artificial intelligence is so good, it almost thinks like it reads your mind. Yep. And it's not, it's just getting started. And I got this in my presentation, sooner or later, you will not be able to distinguish yourself from your thoughts and the thoughts of those who are trying to manipulate you. And that is the problem that we need to be able to deal with, you guys. That is why it's so vital that we make sure that political advertising is, I would say, more regulated than pharmaceutical advertising and financial advertising here. Because the situations here, some people may get sick. Some people may die as a result of a poor pharmacological result. But literally we have people changing the rules of just society and politics and who's in charge and what they're going to do with that power. And regardless of what political affiliation that you have, you don't want to take away your right to choose for your own self-interest. So that's what I'm really concerned about.
Well, that's why I suggested the fairness doctrine, because you have a point counterpoint right at that same time, so you get a chance.
I don't think it's about point counterpoint. This is not about difference of opinion. This is about the ability to make a decision on your own accord or not. It's more vital. It's more based than that. Jim Prost, question for you.
Tony, I have two questions for Antonio. First of all, what do you think is going to replace the cookies, and is it going to be more intrusive? And do you also think that one of the elements missing in marketing research is now rating how much ads irritate people? For example, the Tom Selleck commercial. That commercial is so irritating because it plays all the time, and the same with Plexiderm. And I'm just thinking we should have that as an element that is also researched, because it really is irritating. Let me put it that way.
For sure. I mean, the challenge here is not just that, that what people are saying, whether it's true or false. The issue here with advertising and marketing and media is the frequency, the repetition of these messages. And I worked with for quite some time. George Lakoff here is a cognitive researcher in Berkeley, and I had the good fortune of working with him on a project. And the trouble here is that frequency means truth. Frequency over time creates a truth or a sense of truth. And if you repeat a lie over and over again, at some point, depending upon the nature of the lie and how many times it's repeated, you begin to believe that it's even possible, and in some cases, believe that's even true. That's a problem with advertising. Advertising is designed to shift and persuade you, in many cases, to do something that is not even in your best interest. And so there's a difference between informing you that the Tide is on sale for $3.95 at the market here, and to shift your actual chemical composition of your brain in a way to vote against your self-interest. I don't know if that answers your question, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Susan.
Well, it's a observation. The repeating of a lie was what was done in the 1930s in Europe, and in a staccato, basically one syllable. So that was borrowed in campaigns. So the repeating of a lie over and over, and that I couldn't help but think this when you talk about voting against your self-interest. That's what I believe the people in Kentucky do. They have voted against their self-interest consistently. And I don't know if it's advertising.
I'll tell you what, Susan, only just to jump in, because the idea of who's voting in what way right now, and this can get very contentious very fast. Right. The higher level purpose of this conversation here is just the idea of being able to make your own choice of your own free will, regardless of who's influencing right now. My intention here is not to say who's right or wrong. My intention here is to say advertising in politics is broken. We have gone from Eisenhower's military industrial complex to the advertising political complex. And there is big money to be made in advertising, and one hand is washing the other, and it's not for our benefit. Any other questions? Randall Reeder.
You have a comment about the fake videos where they can put somebody's mouth?
Yeah. So I can talk about that. These are called deep fakes. Yeah. Look, you guys, you should be frightened about this, but frightened only to the extent here that you know what's going on. My whole purpose for you is to actually just make you aware of things that are happening. And right now, forget about plugging into your brain with electrodes. Even today, just looking on YouTube, you can see what are called deep fakes, where technology allows you to have any person in history in a realistic manner look and hear and seem as though they've said something that they never ever said in their entire life. And it is getting closer and closer to being indistinguishable from reality. And so you might imagine the idea of somebody manipulating Martin Luther King Jr. to say something that he never said, or Ronald Reagan to say something that he never said. And if it's on video with the audio and the facial recognition and the technology, indistinguishable from truth, from reality, you can see how the level of manipulation could get even deeper. And imagine this. When you're looking at someone on video on YouTube, you say one thing, but when you have a thought in your mind, it's something different. So imagine that the thought in your mind is programmed from your phone as a deep fake. Forget deep fakes on video. Think about deep fakes in your own brain that are set in there. And so it's almost as if you're having an actual real memory of something that happened that's manipulated. This is the big problem, you guys. This might be the most important crisis that we've ever had in history, is the idea that political people in political power can program memories into your mind that are false, that get you to vote against your self-interest, essentially enslaving you to the powers ahead. I don't think that there's anything more frightening in my mind regarding that. And this is not some weird conspiracy. This is not even science fiction anymore. You saw Elon Musk. Elon Musk delivers on what he says he's going to do. He did it with Tesla, he did it with SpaceX, and he's going to do it with Neuralink. So guys, pay attention to what's going on. Everybody is manipulating you politically and emotionally. The question here is, do you have a choice in the matter? And my whole purpose for you today is to make sure that you are aware of these manipulations going on, and not to have it be about right or left, but to have about being, you should be in control of your own mind and your own heart, and not allow people to have influence. The one way that you can solve this and stop it is to separate money from politics, to separate and to hold accountable those who advertise for political purposes and those who deliver those advertisements for political purposes. These people need to be regulated. These people need to be held accountable. And these people need to be able to reinstate trust in society.
Well, thank you, Antonio. A great conclusion and a great ending.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now.